Playing Bigger, Playing Beautiful, the heart-centered way, where entrepreneurship meets spirituality, explores the intersection of personal fulfillment, spiritual growth, and business success. This podcast delves into the idea that entrepreneurship isn't just about profits or growing small to medium-sized businesses. It's also about embracing purpose, meaning, and inner growth. Each episode features conversations with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and spiritual practitioners who share their journeys of building businesses that align with their highest values and deepest callings.
I'm your host, Debbie Zita, best-selling author, meditation guide, Australia's leading heart-centered success coach, creator of the 6 Selves model of self-inquiry, and founder of the Heart-Centered Way, dedicated to helping heart-centered humans cultivate more time, energy, money, and wisdom. Welcome, beautiful Paula. Thank you so much for being here. Can you please let the audience know who you are and what it is that you do?
Well, thank you so much, Debbie, for having me here. I'm absolutely honoured to be a part of this. And hi, I'm Paula. I'm from Australia, as you can hear from my accent. I live in Melbourne, and I am actually a virtual CFO and money mentor. And I suppose I didn't always do this role. So I started off my corporate career as an accountant. I have been an accountant for over 20 years now, and I built that career up. I built it up really quite fast, and then I sort of hit some plateaus, I suppose. Like I was looking for something else. And I suppose there's a lot of people out there who have that experience where they've been working for a while and then they think, hang on a minute, what else? Like I had this photo on my desk, I remember, and it had my kids on it. I had 3 kids at the time. And I would look at the photo and think, I never see this. I never see them. You know, like my mum, like I would drop them off to my mum's in their pajamas. She would look after them all day and I would pick them up in their pajamas. And that was, you know, that was kind of, and I know a lot of people experience that. But I had some amazing opportunities. So I built this career up and I built it up fast because of 2 reasons. First of all, the first reason there was because I had my first baby. I just turned 26 and he was born with a couple of disabilities. So when he came into the world, I was working full time, and he had so many appointments, and I had to make this call, like, do I be with him full time and be that carer? Because there was just so much time away from work and he needed so much, or do I go and earn the money for the family? And my dad actually made that call for me. He was there with me. We were in a session with one of the specialists, and they said, it was just getting to the point where he needed a lot more support. And my dad was 53 years old at the time, and he said, I'm set. I've set up. Well, I don't need to work anymore. Yeah. You go and earn the money. You need to build your wealth. And he retired early and he took over that role for me. And he's got a beautiful relationship with my son even today, which is he's 19 now. So it's been a long time, right? So I went, and I really pushed the limits. I ended up being in and out of Parliament, being relied on for advice from ministers, CEOs, senior executives for all of their financials, reporting, that kind of forward-looking stuff. And I was unfulfilled. I was like, I can't do this forever. I will cap out, and also like I will cap out. I'll never see anything, right? So I actually started a t-shirt business. I don't know if you know this, Debbie, but I started a t-shirt business. And I started putting these t-shirts up on Amazon. I listened to a podcast very much like what Debbie's doing here. She had someone on. I listened to it and I just followed the instructions. I took action and ended up getting my t-shirts on the top 10 pages of Amazon which meant that I was making money in my sleep. And I was like, what? You can make money like this? Like what? Like I don't have to trade my time. And I was just,
Yeah.
it just blew my mind. It blew my mind. Um, from there, I thought I was going to be a t-shirt business owner, but it wasn't to be. Like I had a marriage breakdown, often, people go through these things. And I lost the business. So I lost the business. I actually lost all my money and I had to start again. And I spent 7 months trying to get everything back. And at that point, I was like, do I just stick with the corporate or do I try and fight for this t-shirt? And I was fighting for it back and I was getting nowhere. I thought there's something more in me. And that's when I actually hired another coach. I had a coach at the time helping with the t-shirts. I hired a different coach and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to be a speaker, but I'm not sure. And from there, that coach helped me build my coaching business and build it up. And it's just been evolving and evolving and to where I am today.
Oh, such an amazing story. And so many parallels in our journey as well. I'm so I used to be an oversharer and now I'm very private these days. And yeah, but the divorce, um, the the child with needs, I can relate to that as well. Um, and pivoting the business and changing with what you need to be doing. And it sounds like also really, obviously money is really important to you. And what the sense I get from our interactions, it's important because, and correct me if I'm misunderstanding, but it's a part of being an independent woman that can, find her way and keep finding her way. And there's the closed doors or the pivoting and the changing and different relationships, but it's just coming back to yourself and going, okay, what is right and true for me now? And let's keep going. And how do I balance the family and my own health? And, before we even jumped on, I was saying to you, like, yes, I'm busy, but not busy because I myself, part of what we do here at the Heart Centered Way is help women to create high value, high ticket offers, which is all about how do you leverage your time, your energy, your money, and your wisdom. And when I started doing that, I really didn't know, but I was like, after 10 years of what I call my dark decade of the soul, because there was trauma, abuse, loss and grief, I was slammed in every area. I sat in prayer and I just went, God, creator, universe, that's it. I'm done with that. You have to show me a better way. And it's just started with like a sense and a feeling, but I didn't quite yet know. I did have, 2 degrees behind me and a book was already out and I'd been on podcasts. But because I'd been through so much, I know it sounds funny, Paula, but I actually forgot. I had to Google myself because I'd been through so much. I forgot who I was. And then I was like, oh yeah, I've written a book and I've been to university and I've helped women and oh yeah, I can do it. So it was from this really like humble and like gentle and sweet space that I built, and I'm proud to say 6 figures per year, which to me is not kind of enough now because now I've outgrown that too. But so grateful that I did that because I'm realizing as a coach with no other kind of side hustle, this is what I do, no other job, this is it. 6 figures a year and to maintain that as a revenue is actually amazing. So it's like I'm celebrating my own journey through your beautiful sharing. And then also it's like inviting women who are listening and the men as well. How can we learn to leverage our time better? And it's part of, I've got my questions here and we haven't planned any of this. We kind of went, let's just go with it and see what comes through, which is always the best. But it's like, I want to find out how, if someone's starting out on the journey and doesn't know quite yet, how do I leverage it? Like maybe it's a t-shirt business, maybe it's a coaching business, because that's really the strategy or what the outside sees. But you and I both know there's so much internal work that comes into it when you're actually receiving money, whether it's the 6 figures or multi 6 figures or the 7 figures or beyond, because I used to think people were lying when they said that because it can't possibly be true. But no, it's true. There are women out there that are earning multi 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures per year. They're doing it with integrity. They're doing it with heart, but there's work and systems and coaches and things that are there. So what would you say, to a woman listening? How can we help her?
Yes. So I think starting out, well, there's there's a lot of internal work. Exactly what you said. Like I came from an employee background. So I only thought that I had to earn more money, I had to level up at work. That's the only way I saw until I got near the top and I thought, "Oh, one or two more levels and I'm capped. Like, where do I go? Like, there's nothing else there. And there must be a better way to not give away all of me just for this amount of money. Like there must be other people doing different things. So I started to think outside the box, but I also had to make a internal decision that that's what I was going to do and not be tied to, I suppose, the vehicle of that, which is what, the t-shirt business or it's something else, or because often your first thing is not your thing. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it evolves. So if I was so tied to the t-shirt business, when I couldn't get it back, I would have seen that as a failure, and I would have seen, oh my gosh, I'm done. I can't. I obviously tried, didn't work. And when you're in that try and didn't work mode, then that's all you're going to see. You're going to see more of, oh, it didn't work. It didn't work. But instead, I chose to go against, I suppose, all odds. Like there was no one around me at that time. I wasn't part of a huge mastermind. I had a coach, like one coach. And she was brilliant with the t-shirts. And then as I said, I brought on a second coach, and I still didn't have like a mastermind of people around me. So I just had, my family who only saw working, as the way to go, and the current friends at the time who were similar, right? So I had to make a decision to go against that grain. Mm.
I so understand, and this is exactly where, and we will kind of at some point get to it. And I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the six selves, the model of self-inquiry that I registered, but there's an ecological self, and if anyone's watching the YouTube, that's behind me, and I'm pointing to it because the ecological self is all about it's your environment, it's who you're around, and I don't know about you, Paula, but it's like there's almost like an ego death or ego dissolution, or there's this identity shift because you want to be loyal to your family, your tribe, your friends, right? But you also get a sense that there's a different version of you, and it's a whole different world and paradigm. So it's how do we honor, both? And I know some people go, just toxic and, just move away. I'm heart-centered. So for me, it's genuinely love and light to every being, even those that have done us wrong, even those, in a healthy, beautiful way. And so it's about setting, I think, the new dynamic rather than saying goodbye. It's thank you, you're a part of my life. And I still want you there if you would like to be here. This is all internal. And how can we make it work together in this new way? And some people will naturally kind of fall away, but others, what I've noticed, which is quite beautiful, will actually shift and open and evolve, or perhaps they always were, but I didn't know because they didn't know that part of me just yet.
Yes.
Having women that are also in business, or women that are leadership positions, or women that just have that. There's often the tall poppy syndrome, which I thought was in Australia, but apparently it's kind of it's worldwide. But I think it's very much in my experience, having dealt with women from the States and Canada as well. I think Australians, we do still struggle with that, but it's okay for us to stand proud in our expertise and actually say, no, I'm really good at this. And yeah, hey, my girl, like Paula's great at this. And like, help to lift each other up, because otherwise what's women's empowerment and what's it all for,
Exactly. Exactly. And as you mentioned there, like as I was very much like you, like the love and light, like
Yeah.
that was definitely one of my, earlier mantras of just being, right, how can I be in love more today? Like how can I give more light? And this was even before I decided to do the t-shirts or anything like that.
Yeah.
I would visualize that light coming through me and out of me, and how could I just be a better person and like interact and be more present. And I think all of that helps towards that evolution. All of that helped me to get to that point, because when I made the decision, and I think about the decisions that I made along the way, when I made those decisions, then it's like everything around me shifted because I saw things differently and I was reacting to things differently. And it's not like I was being mean to people in my life. I just chose to have more time on my own and spend more time with people who were more like where I was going. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, which is, beautifully authentic and setting those boundaries in a very loving, heart-centered way. And it will shake things a little bit because none of us like change. That's just the way we are as humans. We want it to stay the same, but life is full of change. That's just how it is. So can we navigate it in a way that's, respecting all parts of ourselves and respecting those around us as best we can. And then, I don't know about you, but I have that perfectionist streak where I would get stuck in, I won't even do it because it's got to be perfect. But I am going to make a mistake, probably in the podcast, in my coaching, in my friendships, in my, romantic partnerships, as a parent, like I'm going to, and that's okay because I know my heart's in the right place and I'm going to use it as a learning experience and just pick myself up and try again tomorrow, speak to more people, learn from them, learn from myself, and just refine the process. And there is
Yeah,
no perfect ever. Anyway, what does that even mean, right? Because one perfect for someone
exactly.
is someone else's fail or imperfection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, I I doubt a lot of my managers in the past when I was in the workplace would have described me as a perfectionist because I was just so fast moving. I was just like, right, let's go, go, go.
Oh, that's a good thing.
But I get where you're coming from, and I get I see it all, I've seen it so often as well, and especially amongst women as well. Like we want to please, we want to be the good girl, we want to be the best, and we've had drilled into us right from that schooling that really, oh, you're not good enough unless you get this, and there's always something wrong with it. Like there's always something that your teacher or your manager could pick at to make you better and focus on that thing. And so you never feel like you're fully good enough to be able to do it. And even if you do feel good enough, you've got probably all these people ahead of you, and you're thinking, gosh, how can I even start now? Like, how can I even compete? Because we're comparing ourselves to people so far ahead.
Yeah.
And I guess I was a little bit at the start, a little bit naive to it. I also was just a little bit like strong-willed
Mhm.
because I thought I I was recently divorced. I'd lost a lot of friends. I'd lost a lot of money, and I was like, right, I'm close to 40. I would love a new relationship if I would like to spend my life with somebody. I
Yeah.
don't want to spend it alone. So I'm going to need to change me, right? How I show up to
Yeah.
be able to attract that. Because obviously I attracted the wrong thing before.
Yeah.
And that sort of started it. And also I was like, right, and also this is how I want to live my life. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of people get to that point, late 30s, early 40s, and go, what else? Like, I want to live, I want to do something with this life. And I think that's where I got to. And I thought, right, I'm just going to make the decision now to go for it.
Mm.
And that decision to see myself as a coach rather than an employee made all the difference because then I saw the job as the secondary thing and the actual business as the main thing that I was doing. So I described myself differently. I saw myself differently. And what I found is um, I had to show up as someone different. And that didn't feel like you touched on it before.
Mm.
It felt different and it felt uncomfortable. And so many times I felt like I wanted to give up, give it in, not do it. Because, especially at the beginning, I had three kids. I was crammed into a small bedroom at my mum's house. They each had a bedroom. They were very looked after. But like we were sort of like all of my stuff that I could get was just like around me. And I was studying again, but I also had those kids, they were quite young at that time. So there was sports, there was, school, and there was also work. And also, I mentioned there I wanted to meet someone. So if I was going to meet someone, I wanted to look good, right? So I was like,
Right.
I need to up my, exercise and my health as
Yeah,
well. So
wow.
like I was like, right, I don't care how early I have to get up,
Yeah,
but I need to get up before these kids. And
wow.
I don't, when they go to bed, I need to be up later than them. And at the time, in my lunch breaks or my travel, that was the time I could learn or grow or do bits and pieces for the business. That was how I got it going in the beginning.
Wow. It sounds like you had, there was that drawing the line in the sand moment, and probably a few of them where it's not just I think I'm going to do it, but it's for me it's like it's a real kinesthetic visceral experience where it's like, oh, something's shifted like internally. That's it. We're doing this, right? And I know whenever that happens, that I do create it. It might not be next month, next week. It might be a year or two or 5 years, but it's going to happen. Is there a way, and I guess if I knew this, this could be our next kind of patent like 7 million, $8 million thing, but like, is there a way that we can like expedite that process for women? Like, how do we get to that decision making of it's because it's not just a mental thing.
No.
It's the heart, it's the soul, it's the body. It's like, that's it, I'm done, and something different. I don't know if you can even answer that question, but I
Yeah.
thought let's try.
Yeah. You know what? This question came up for me yesterday on a client call as well.
Yeah.
And she was asking me, she goes, I could see the difference in you each time. And how did you do it? How did you get there? And I think it's exactly what you're saying. It's not just shifting the thoughts and what you're saying. A lot of people think, you know what, I'll just do a mantra. I'll get up, I'll do these mantras, I'll incant this stuff, and I will brainwash myself until I get there. Now, I think it's the combination, and I think it works differently for different people, but definitely for me, I needed a combination of things. Like I needed mantras in my head, I needed to reprogram myself, I needed to let go of the old me and what that was, and just decide to be the new me. And that will, as I mentioned, that's not easy to do because in every moment I was slowing myself down to go, okay, if I'm going to be the new me in this moment, what decision would I make? What response would I have to this person just in everyday conversation? In all the things that I would have done before, how do I now do it differently? And I think a lot of, especially women, and I was one of them, I used to be very caught up in all of the little tasks, all of the small things that you need, lunch boxes, they've got to have labels, they've got to have this. You know what? My youngest daughter has made it through all of primary school without me making her lunchbox. She's done it
Wow.
without a label, like she's done her own stuff. Like, not, I let go of the busy, mundane, small things
Yes.
because I needed to focus on the bigger things of where I was going. And if I had have stayed in that small stuff, then I would have stayed having that same outcome over and over and over again because I had no time to get out of it.
I'm having such like a penny drop moment and thinking back to my own journey and thinking back, but also even current day because we're divorced.
Mm.
We're very good friends, and we're very strange in terms of a blended family. I feel like we're almost like a poster family. Nothing kind of happened. It wasn't a good mix. And I lost my mum very young, and I thought this life, if I follow this timeline, I'm miserable, and that's like we can't do that. So it was so heartbreaking to make that call to part ways. My ex remarried. She's absolutely beautiful. We're actually like we're friends, and then we've also learnt like boundaries, so we don't talk about things that we don't need to go, talk about. They've had a bubby. He's 3. I love him. He loves me. My son's good. Like, it's never ideal to not be in a family unit that's traditional. I feel. I think
Yeah.
it's really healthy to have that, but there are cases where that just doesn't happen for so many different reasons. But where I was going with it was part of the reason I could do this was because things like the pandemic happened, and my son by then was quite a bit older. My ex-hubby and his family and his wife, they did most of the they did the homeschooling. The years before that,
Mm.
I was doing literally pretty much everything, the school drop-offs, the
Yeah.
meals, the breastfeeding, like everything, right? But then it shifted. And I wanted to share because also not that I'm a low energy person, but I've been through a lot. When I actually explain to people why I need to have naps and what it is that I do, it's like they're like, oh, I get it, girl. Like you do your naps, you do your thing. And it works for me. But I have help. I've built these relationships where I'm not the one doing every single dinner, every single drop off, I can't possibly. I've got 20 something clients. I've got a community of there's over 100 women. There's 7 countries that we work with. There's a team, there's different time zones. There's different payment platforms that we use. I'm on a learning curve with Instagram and social media and my up leveling as a leader. There's like, I'm only one human being, like I work with energy and I can read the Akashic records and I do Reiki healing and I can connect so many things, right? I can do that too, but I'm still just a woman who's 44 and needs to eat and sleep. So
Yeah.
if you're watching us on Insta or you're hearing our stories around 6 figures, 7 figures, it's usually because there's an amazing husband or partner or mother or father. Like I didn't have mum, you had your parents, it sounds like, right?
My parents were brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were beautiful to me all the way through. So that I'm very, very grateful for. And yeah, I think there's a lot of women out there who don't have the support. Some people do, some people don't. And you think that you've got to dive into doing everything and doing all of those tasks, but you've got to look and go, okay, well, if I'm going to level up to this kind of person, if that's the kind of money that I want to bring in, if that's the kind of business that I want to have, then who is she? Like, does she do the same things? And I 100% know that she's not going to be able to do all of the same things because, as you said, we're only human. Like, we do need to sleep and eat. And, I'm in bed quite early every single night. My kids now go to bed later than I do, and they always tell me about it. But I need that sleep because I'm a morning person. So I love to get up early and do my things then. But you've got to find your way, but you've got to find what is that next level and who is that next level self? Like, and 100% they're going to be different. They're going to turn up different. When I step into those, like, and this is a constant journey. This is not something it's one and done. Like, you're going to level up and then there's going to be another level. But when I'm going through that level up, often things change. Like, I'm all of a sudden eating differently. I'm looking after my body differently. And I remember the first time looking at, okay, who is that next level Paula? Who is she? Who does she need to be? And seeing people that I idolized at that level. And I just started to look at them and go, okay, well, it's really interesting that they have this level of business. They have all of this money coming in, but they seem well rested. They seem to be able to look after their bodies. They seem to be fit and healthy. They seem to always have time to get their hair and nails done. They all seem to, be able to take the time and feel energized and excited about talking to each person, not rushed,
Yes,
not,
yes.
oh, quick, just tell me the thing. It's they have the time and they ask a question and they give you time. So I was like, right, I need to model that. That's who I need to be to become that next level self. And to do that, I have to let some things go because I can't be that old self. And when we go through that transition, I think you mentioned before, like it feels different. So then it feels hard. And that's where people give up because they're like, oh, I slept in today, or I didn't get my thing done today, or I went back into my old self today. And they get upset at themselves.
Yeah.
They feel the guilt, the shame, and they're like, oh, it's not going to work for me. What we need to go is like just to let those things go rather than feel the guilt and the shame and all of the things, like just to allow that to go to the side and go, okay, look, I'm only human. I am going to have days where it's probably not going to all come in line with the new level self. However, tomorrow's a new day or today's a new afternoon, and we could step into that again and I can try again. And I don't need to hold on to that guilt and shame. And I know I'm just saying this, but and when I actually had to let go of those things, it wasn't easy. Like
Yeah.
I went through stages of like, right, I'm really going to concentrate letting go of this guilt.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. Especially talking about like the mother piece for me, like that for me to be able to have my former hubby and his wife do that. There was so many tears and so much guilt. And I'm not going to lie, I did stay there for a while. I'm actually really proud of myself that I feel okay to share it with you and on the podcast, because I've come to a place where I know I'm such a beautiful mama. Like, I'm mama to everyone. Why would I not be mama to my own son, you know? But I did it in my way through the challenges and the traumas that I went through, and losing mum, and losing so many things, and feeling like I have this like dharma and longing to be here. And that almost feels like another baby for me. Like, my books and my business, of course, it's never as important. Like, my first thing is I wake up and I think of my son, and I go to bed and I think of my son. Like, that's just how it is. But my business is also like part of that family for me. So I think it's like coming to a place where I know myself so well now, and will continue to know myself. People may judge, people may not understand, they may misunderstand, be confused. And I think I'm actually okay with that. I'll test myself out as I'm saying
Yes.
this, right? Because you do kind of dip back into the old self. But this
Yeah.
is what I'm really good at, doing this and teaching women. And I think it sounds like you've got this piece as well. Self-compassion. I
Hmm.
know at the core I'm a good human. I know I've made mistakes, but I know I've always tried my best at every corner, every turn. And so when I bump up against, the guilt, shame, blame, I personally go, okay, God, creator, Deb, I actually like I actually kiss myself now. I'm like, you got it, girl. Like, it's okay. Don't worry. Like, don't go into that. Witness that part of you and then just let it go. Have a coffee, come back, do the podcast. Here we go. And then you just keep going. But
Yes.
that's the six-figure a year thing too, because before that, I was so stressed about the finances that everything I would say would be filtered through that stress. And now there's a bit more ease. And I was taught in a lot of spiritual communities, and I love your spiritual communities. If anyone's listening, I'm not judging anybody, but there is so much, programming around money,
Hmm.
and that it's evil or it's corrupt, or that if you're using it for something spiritual, then you've turned away from God or true source or divine source. I don't think so. I think we have our unique journeys. And for some of us, myself included, it's about, I'm here to earn great money because I'm going to do great things with it. And some of that will be for myself and my family, and a
Yes.
lot of that will be for society, but I'm allowed to do both because I'm human and I say so. And God
Exactly.
supports me with that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. When you say that, and I think a lot of people resonate that in the spiritual communities, there is a lot of what are you going to charge that for that, or all of that comes up, and people feel that. And I think that's been ingrained into people, one, as their culture in that those spaces, but also culture before that. Like, I think, you've gone through the schooling system, which is very much like, you work and you get paid for that particular thing. But a lot of people have been raised in a spiritual upbringing as well, like perhaps, a religion, and a lot of religious type framework is based on that as well.
Yeah.
Whereas I believe if I tear back all of that framework that has been put on it, that actually a lot of the spiritual teachings teach us to be wealthy.
Yeah. I think it's such an interesting part of the journey, and I think it's like everything, it's so unique to each individual. So it's doing whatever you have to do. And I had to go through a time in my life where I had, there was pretty much everything was okay, and I probably wasn't grateful enough for it because I was quite young, and I didn't realize what I was actually given, to then kind of giving so much of that away to charities and being on ashrams, and not having my hair done, and not sort of, like, I don't really do my nails, but that's just a personal choice. I don't sort of mind them as they are, they're fine. But like, but my hair, I do love to have my hair nice, and I went through this stage of like, no, no, but that's also not me. That was who I was around and what felt good for them. And I was joking with someone on another podcast, I can do the river swim and the dirt between my fingers, and then let's also go and like have a scalp massage and
Yeah.
have a pedicure, and I'll end my day on that. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's what suits me. And so
Yeah.
you as in the listener or the watcher, you might be anywhere on those extremes where you're like, I don't wear makeup, I don't do my hair, I love the earth. Amazing. You can still be wealthy and do whatever you want. And you might be a glamazon that has extensions and loves all of that and just feels good in that space and has the nails and everything and a Porsche and a Mercedes and whatever in my imagination of what that lifestyle is that is for you. Amazing. Is that true and authentic for you? Is your heart open? Are you being a loving and kind being? Are you being an instrument? Amazing. Do the outward expression according to your soul signature.
I love that. I love that. And for anyone who's like just listening and not watching, like you have to check out Debbie because her hair is gorgeous.
Thank you.
Like one of the first things when I met you, I was like, oh my gosh, because I have a daughter who has hair very similar and it's beautiful.
Thank you. I joke that it has its own podcast because it's so big, and I used to try and hide it and be embarrassed, and then I'm like, just embrace it. It's I say big hair, big heart. That's me.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I want
Yeah.
to ask you, Paula, how can we let's bring it to something practical, but if someone's like, oh, I've got the vibes and I'm feeling it and I want to move from my corporate job or really up level in my
Mm.
business, like, how can we replace the income? Because we have to be able to replace whether it's, 300K per year or 50K,
Yeah,
whatever it is, at a
yeah,
minimum to keep the lifestyle there so we're not going into shock and trauma. Is there
yeah.
a practical step? Like, is there a program that you have perhaps that's like dedicated just to that?
Yeah, so this is such a good thing. And a lot of people are told by their coaches, jump. Like just jump and you'll find your way because you have to, right? So some people will, and some people will go into exactly what you said, shock. And they'll go into this scarcity mindset and they can't sell from that. That's
No.
the problem. Like once you're in that space of I need money or I don't eat or I need money or I don't pay my rent or whatever it is, then the next sale that you're making, like that person knows on that other end,
Mhm.
like it just doesn't feel aligned. They feel something's off. Like you could say the same words and it just doesn't come across.
Yeah.
So I always recommend that you don't jump that early. When I jumped, I
Mm.
had 9 months worth of money in the bank, 9 months worth of money in the bank because I had 3 kids
Yeah.
and I had a new relationship that I was navigating and I wasn't sure where that was going to go. So I don't want to rely on anyone either. It's like, right, I'm going to have some money set aside. So I always recommend that you set aside some money. So you work out how much, like very practically, how much does your lifestyle cost?
Yeah.
And also this new business, because a business usually costs a bit of money too, okay? Like you're going to have, like, you might have a website, you might have some software that you need, all the things, right? You might have all of this equipment like you've probably got there, Debbie, and I've got all this equipment around me as well, right? It's not cheap. And then some tech person to come and set it up for me because I have no idea, right? So all of the things. So you've got to think about, okay, how much does it cost me to run my life every single month normally?
Mm.
And you have to think too, like if I was pushed, you could probably give up a few things. So you could lessen it a little bit. You might go, oh, well, look, right now I go out for some expensive dinners and I go do this. Well, I still, I might still get my hair done, but I might not go for the expensive dinners if I was tight. So I can bring that down a little bit. But you want to get to your figure, what that figure is, and then you want to push it out. Like I like to start with a 3 month goal. Like have your 3 month goal and go for it and set up a separate account. So it's not like more money in your account because that's easy to take when you need it, right? You're like, oh,
Yeah,
you know what? I need that.
that's
You
so
want
true. I'll learn it the
to,
hard way.
pushed away somewhere. Yeah, you want to push it away somewhere and you want to calculate how much you can afford right now to put into that fund to put away. Because most people go, oh, well, I won't worry about that. I'll just make money. I'll just get my first client. I'll just get this. I'll just get that. But what happens if you don't? what happens if the business is struggling for a few months? And this is business. Business will go up and down, up and down. You know, people often ask me, like, how do I create that steadiness? You create the steadiness in cash by having a buffer that you can draw on when you need it. And you always want to be building this buffer so that your business has a buffer there, so that regardless of what happens, if you have a low month or you're sick, you can't work, something happens, you'll still get paid. All the bills will still get paid. Kids can still go to school, and everyone's getting fed, whatever you need, right? My thing was probably a lot more money because I had 3 kids, one of them with special needs, you know, physio appointments, all the things, and private school. I was like, you know, I'm not pulling them out of private school, but maybe we wouldn't have a holiday if, you know, if you know, push come to shove, I wouldn't have a holiday, but I'm still going to need to buy them clothes and shoes and all the things that they need to make sure that they're okay. So work out what that is for you, and then start working towards, I say, like a 3-month, and then work towards your 6-month. And if you want to work towards your 9-month, just so that you've got like a buffer there, right? Just in case something happens, you're okay. I would stick it, you know, bonus points if you stick that in like a savings account with a high interest rate, so that you can get some high interest on that. But it's setting up those separate accounts and separating things out that's going to really help you just see it easier, rather than just seeing it on your reporting. You want to see it actually in the bank accounts, like separate things out to make it as easy as possible for you. So that's the practical side. The actual doing it though, like the stepping in and going, oh, I am going to do that. That takes work, because you could set that account up and not use it. You could set that account up and think, oh, I'll get there. I'll get there. And that's what comes back to that new identity and that decision to go, right, if I am that business owner, then I do need to set my business up, and I do need to be ready to walk into it. Regardless of what happens, I need to be making sure I'm looking after myself and my family too. Then I need to make sure I focus on getting this done. And I've seen people go from employee and, you know, barely anything left over to go, right, I'm going to rejig things to put stuff left over, to put stuff away for their futures, so that they can move into their business quicker. And I've seen people go, you know what? I'm going to work out a different way over and above my employment at the moment to get it, not putting things on my not putting the pressure on my business yet. And I've seen people go, you know what? Okay, I'll go and get a little extra job as well. Or I'll do some extra work online. Maybe I'll do some online marketing for people, or some Canva things, or just lots of bits and pieces that you can do. And I think of all the things that I've hired people to help me move faster through the whole journey. And there's often, you know, if you're at the start of your journey, there's often a coach or someone ahead of you who's like, you know what, I just want to move faster. Gosh, if you can write that thing for me, if you could do that thing for me, yeah, fantastic.
I love what you're sharing, that it's not cookie cutter, because every circumstance is different. Some people don't have children. Some people have 3 or 4 children. Some people are in private schools. Some people are not. Some people have parents to care for. There's just so many factors. The other thing that came to mind, it's almost, you know, if you sit with a traditional financial planner and you're looking at maybe, you know, purchasing property or going into shares or something like that, they will look at I think it's a risk assessment. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. They're going to look at how much money you've got and your ability to save, your ability to have that money there.
Yeah.
And even for a mortgage as well.
Yes.
So if I think of one of my clients who wanted to buy a house, like that was her dream. That's what she wanted to do. And she had a business, and the business was making like 10 to 15K months at the time when she joined and we worked together. She wasn't going to get there at that point. Like there was no way. Like we had to rejig things in the business, similar to what you probably do with your clients, right? Rejig things to be able to have the money set aside and then flow it out to. And what that meant for her is she actually had to go after a better target audience, like a higher ticket audience, to be able to do the same thing and have more money come in and be able to put that money aside.
Yeah.
Right. But she did. She actually was able to put the money aside for that and also put the money aside for investing back in the business as well, which was really cool.
And do you think also, our personality, because I'm a Sagittarian, so I do take risks. And I'm not that great with knowing the star signs, but I know some of our listeners will know this really well. But there are just certain, star signs, personalities, numerology, life lessons, people that they're more conservative, and that's okay. So coming to a place where you know yourself, where you know that you can take that leap of faith, whether it's a huge one or a small one, and you will be okay, versus actually, no, I've done that before. It doesn't work for me. I'm just going to play it safe. And no coach and no guru and no teacher can tell you that. That's something that you work out. This is coming from lesson learned many times myself. What that is for you, because there were points for me, I think it was 5-6 years ago, where I ended up, because I had such low self-esteem, despite my university degrees and everything, I ended up in a part-time retail job. Nothing wrong with retail, but it was soul destroying for me because I didn't want to be there, but I didn't think I was worth anything more than that. And so I had to then come to a place of that decision of like, oh my God, no. So I quit that and then went into prayer. And that's when I sold my first, like it was a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month. I forget the timeline, but pretty soon after I sold my first 4.5K, 5K package. However, I had already been through coaching and my psych degree and social work and NLP and all the different relationships, and like that was all there behind me, but I just hadn't pieced it together. So it may have looked like it came from nowhere, but it actually came from years of preparation and study.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
I took the leap of faith and it did pay off for me, but it still took another probably 2 or 3 years to get to the 6 figures.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's because often we're set at, like we have like a money set limit, like a limit. And it's similar, like think about your weight, right? I think this is the easiest thing, especially for women. Like we think about our weight, we sort of have like that set point where we get to the point where it's like the clothes are fitting, but they're a little tight. And
Yes.
then we get to the point where, oh my gosh, like if I don't do something about this, I'll be on the next size. I'm going to have to throw out the whole wardrobe. And so we usually at that point, that's like our set point, and we go, oh, hang on a minute, like I have to get back down, right? So we have like this set point of weight, right?
I'm like, yes, I've eaten, I'm like, Paula, you know me too well. I've eaten way too much in December. But no, yes, I get it very much.
So yeah, I know I hear you as well. Like January, and I'm like, oh, I have the carrots, like I'm gonna snack on carrots. It's all good. But it's okay. Like we have those set points, but we generally have those set points with money too. And I'll explain it to you like this: like when I lost everything, like I mean, like my bank account was cleared to zero, because it's just that my partner thought that that's what he was owed. He said that was his money and that was what he was owed. And a lot of work later, I just realized that we just all have different ways of interpreting things, right? Like he could have truly believed that that is his and that's his money, and that's not a problem. Whereas I believe that, no, that wasn't all of your money. And so I went back to zero.
And also, can I just say, side note, even if it was, you're dealing with another human being who has a family to feed and their own to feed. So come from compassion and heart and just think about what's fair. Just side note from my own perspective.
Yeah, you've got to.
That's how, I mean, to me, it's obvious because that's how I think about every situation, but I know we're all different, but
we're all different.
It's like truly people, we're all connected spiritually. So,
yes,
you're only doing that to yourself. Like that's karma, that's back on you. So just being mindful of that as best we can. But sorry, I interrupted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, totally appreciate that. And 7 months later, 7 months after, it did take me 7 months, but 7 months later, I was back at the same set point of money.
Yeah.
My kids didn't come out of the private schools. They didn't really see much difference apart from they lived now with their grandparents for 7 months. And then all of a sudden, I had a new house in the same neighborhood. Like, I'd got myself back on track. Somehow I always got back to that sort of set level. And I'd had a childhood which was fairly, nicely upright, like private schools and all the things. So I was used to that level, and I came back to that level. It wasn't like I had, it was an unusual level for me. It was just that was normal, and I came back to normal. But for me to go beyond normal,
Yeah.
right? That was the thing. I was like, oh, how do I go beyond that? And to go beyond that for me is the spiritual work. That is the real work, as I like to call it, which is you must become that next level person who already has that. I like to see myself as that. Some people don't like to visualize, but I like to see myself. Like, I usually picture something. Like, I'll give you an example. And this was a few years ago now, when I was going for my first 100K in 100 days, right? So my coach had said 100K in 100 days. And I went, okay, all right, let's all do this. Like, and he put it to about 20 of us. And I thought, okay, I don't know how that's going to come about, but I don't need to know how.
Yeah.
My experience, I don't need to know how. And the way he put it to us was, he said, look, if one of you does this, I'm going to get a super yacht. I'm going to get like one of those massive champagne bottles. I'm going to shake it. Like, it's going to be like the Grand Prix. It's going to be elaborate, right? So what did I do? I was like, I just was visualizing, I'm on the yacht. I've never been on a super yacht. I'm going to be on that yacht. I'm going to look hot on that yacht. So I'm like, I'm working out. I'm eating right. I planned my outfits.
Oh, wow.
I bought the outfits. I bought the bags. I bought my ear, like everything, right?
Wow.
I planned my hair around it, like my hair appointments, like all the things. Like, I blocked it out. I was like, I'm going.
This is happening, universe. Show me how. Yeah.
The first month, the first person does it. No, after the first 100 days, 70 days in, I think the first person does it. And I still hadn't done it. I'm like, okay, I haven't done it yet. And then another person hits it, and I'm like, oh wow, like this is real, right?
Yeah, it's possible.
Possible. And then I didn't really think of the how. I didn't really change my strategy. So, like, I didn't change my strategy. I didn't try and do more. I did just deliver what I usually delivered. And what happened in 1 month was crazy. Like, it was just lined up. It was like in 28 days from the first of the month, like, so on the day 28, I had made $130,000 in that month. And I was like, wow.
Wow.
Right. So
That's like, high five, girl. Can I? Amazing.
And it was just a number of calls where people said yes.
Yeah.
That was all. It was just, I didn't have any more calls than I would usually have. It was like clients upgrading, looking for a little bit more of one-on-one time, which is a little bit more pricier to work with. And it just ended up that it hit that amount. And I couldn't believe it. And I was like, I'm now on the yacht, right?
Did you actually get to go? Did it really happen?
It really happened. It really, right? And that set me off. Built that business to over $1 million.
Wow.
Because I had to level up my identity each time, though, right? And see it as possible, and believe it, and have faith in it, and block out the noise around it, and just allow myself to think about it. Like, I would, every time I'm leveling up, I'm walking around the house and I'm telling myself that, like, whatever my mantra is for that new thing, I'm telling myself that, so that I can essentially, I guess, brainwash myself into it, right?
Yeah.
Into believing and having faith that it's happened, but also seeing that end point of when it is happening, whatever that visualization is for you, like whatever means it's done.
Yeah, so that the brain knows in the external world this means that that has actually happened. And it might be a yacht, it might be that you, for me, one of the things was purchasing my own car. And that happened, when was that? 2022, January 22, so 3 years ago. And how that happened was also kind of wild because we were in lockdown. My partner's business shut down, which is why I couldn't do the homeschooling,
Yeah.
because I was like, well, hang on, whoa, like if I do that, then I don't think we can start. Like we're renting because we're still here and we actually love this place because we're in a new relationship, and it just, that was what was right for us. And I was like, but I'm not moving again. Like that's stressful enough, and we've been through so much already. So we're staying in this place. I can't do homeschooling and build a business, and no. So I ended up, I did go through some panic because that was 3 years ago and I was a different version. I don't know that I would panic now, but in fact, I know I wouldn't. I would go into just resourcefulness. But I did panic, and then I calmed down and I got funding. I got quite a substantial amount of funding. I wish I knew to save some of that for my taxes, because then, and that's how
Oh,
you and I know about
yeah,
that, when
this
I was
is
like, wait a second,
the
why
thing,
do I
right?
have so much tax to pay, right? So
Yeah.
anyone listening, save the
Yeah.
30% and a 10%. So really 40% of every dollar, put that away. But that's another kind of story. But I basically, I got the funding that came through. That got us through. And then it also meant that I did, which without knowing it, but I had this great buffer that was really quite lovely there. And so when it was time to purchase a new car, I had borrowed my life partner's. He needed it back. I'm like, right, it's time, let's do it. And I was crying in gratitude. Like it's not a, well, to some it would be a luxury car. It's a VW. It's a beautiful car, and it's not a new car, but it's, I call her sweetie. I love it. I cry when I go in there because I'm so proud that I bought that
With what you built.
with what I built. And it didn't come through how I thought. It came through the funding. But then what I also did was I realized I was calibrated now to receive that amount of money in that short period of time. It's not the 130 a
Yes.
month, but that's okay. Everyone's is
Gosh.
different. But it was my level of that. And then I was like, right, I'm going to now bring that in sales every quarter. And my accountant was like, just be careful because that was funding and you got lucky. And I was like, no, block out the noise, don't listen kind of thing. And 3 years on, I did that. I'm six figures and
Yeah.
I haven't had funding. This is all from sales. So
So good.
yeah,
Like your face is just completely lit up. Like it's so exciting, right? When you do that, like you step into that and you block out the noise of people going, no, because like definitely like you need an accountant at that point, you do.
yes,
But they are
absolutely.
conservative. They're going to be looking back and they're going to be giving you, like they're going to see a lot of businesses and they see a lot of businesses not making it, not paying the tax, not all the things. So of course they're going to give you the advice that they see, but you've got to block that out and be the exception, be the person that you want to be.
Exactly. So it's like do all of that too, because I know I've got a lot of the community, myself included, who don't like doing our taxes. Please
Yeah.
do your taxes, be up to date. And then also, once that's all done, then move on into your affirmations, your mantras, your karmic clearings, your meditate, whatever it is that you're doing to bring you energetically into that space. So we do need both.
Yeah.
It's the balance. I can't believe that we've been talking for an hour. I actually have two questions. I haven't actually asked you any of the questions, but can I share with you just very briefly the model of inquiry that was just kind of wild how that came to be, and this is part of the one of the pillars for the heart-centered way. Have a quick look through, take your time, and then I'd love it if you could just let us know what is your favorite and why. Bear with me, I'm just about to get it up on my screen. I should have been more organized. It is also behind me in the banner as well. But here we go. I'm going to share my screen so you can see properly. And there's this one, and there is one more at the bottom.
Oh, you know what? Can you scroll down?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that I'm gonna go, I might actually go sexual self,
Okay.
right?
Can I come back on screen so we can see your gorgeous face?
Yeah.
Okay.
And although like all of those things are so and I but you know when I think back to all the journeys along the way, I think stepping into that was probably like being open to receive and open to give and open like all of that. I think especially women, and I didn't get to read everything about it, so yeah, I'm
Yeah.
hoping. But I absolutely think that that's a huge opening for a lot of women, that we just kind of, we leave to the side, but actually really leaning into your sexuality, like whether it is in the masculine feminine way, whether it's actually making sure that you're pleasured and pleasuring.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize when I first started, I did so much, actually did a lot of research on this. I actually started when I first started, I started as a relationship coach for a year. And so I did like all of this research, read all of these reports, and for women, that was like one of the biggest openings that I taught them about, that if they didn't have that, they weren't able to, I suppose, do things in the same way as everyone had taught them. Like everything's taught in a masculine way, everything's brought down in a masculine way, like everything, like to even to how we diet and what we eat, and all of those things are actually, most of the research is actually only based on men.
I think until recently, I'm reading an amazing book that I think I've mentioned on every podcast, Women Living Deliciously by Florence. Oh, her last name escapes me, but I'll add the link as I always do in the podcast. But it's all about, it's this type of stuff where it's the patriarchy, and the research for women I don't think came into play until 30 years ago. So the stats were, there's just so much. That's a whole nother kind of thing. But I think but it's an important point though, because the reason I have it in there, like I'm not a sexologist or a sexual coach or anything like that, but coming out of the divorce and coming into this new sort of version of me, I was raised, we spoke about sex growing up, but it was more around, just don't get pregnant, just be careful and then have kids. And there was a part of me, I'm a fire sign, so I'm naturally like, that's just part of who I am and how I am. And most women, we're tender and we're nurturing, and we've got all those parts. Just like the boys have other parts, we have those parts too. And I realized, for myself, when I kind of unlocked that, I'm a beautiful woman, I'm a gorgeous orgasmic woman, and I can feel pleasure, and it's safe and it's okay. And that took a lot of work, and still does. And this is available to every woman. And when we unlock that in a healthy, safe way, and please, if you've been through trauma or abuse, I'm actually going to add 1-800-RESPECT, just for anyone who's listening who doesn't know, well, what does a healthy relationship look like? What's abuse? What's expression in a healthy way? Because if you don't know, you don't know. But once that's unlocked in a healthy way, that actually helps us to increase our financial calibration to receive more.
Yes.
So it's, I actually thought you were going to go with a valued self, because that was kind of, valued self is the money, and that's what, but everyone, that's what I love about this. You just choose what your heart and soul is drawn to sharing and choosing, and that's what you do, right?
Drawn to that.
So good.
Yeah.
I have one other question for you, very last lucky one, which is, what advice do you have for others who are creating a business that serves both the world and their heart?
Oh, just to go after it, like whether it's the first business that you create or the sixth business that you create, like if I think back, there's like a lot of iterations of where I am now. Like before that t-shirt business, I had other little things going on the side, So, but to keep going, like just to believe in yourself and keep going and keep putting yourself in communities, like, Debbie's got a community, like keep putting yourself in communities that are going to surround yourself in people who are going to help you move forward. Like don't try and do it on your own. Like I never tried to do it on my own. And I think that was one of the best things that I did. Like I continually put myself in communities where I know I'm going to level up. And that's been probably the biggest game changer for me.
Oh, such beautiful advice. I could stay talking to you for the next 5 hours, quite literally, but I know that we both have to get into our busy schedules. But thank you, thank you, thank you. Am I mistaken? You're doing a masterclass for us at some point, coming up soon as well. Yeah, so stay tuned, folks, for the masterclass with Paula as well. Paula, thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. If you resonate with what we're about and you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're listening to us, please leave a review and share the episode with someone who you believe could benefit from what has been discussed. Thank you so much for your support. See you soon. The information provided on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered medical, health, or financial advice. Always consult with a qualified health professional or financial advisor before making any decisions related to your personal health or finances.